Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining GEG Nagoya. Tonight, we're going to talk to you about Google Earth. So thanks for joining us for episode 10 of our 2020 series, including tonight, 3 more to go. Thanks a lot for joining us. Today, we're going to tell you so much about Google Earth. And I'm really excited about this because Google Earth is kind of my jam. I'm a social studies history teacher, so I'm going to jump right into it. Please throw your comments and your questions in the chat. Even if you're watching this a little bit later, feel free to comment on YouTube, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible with responses to your questions. But for now, let's get started here. And let me just quickly, I'm going to share one of my tabs. All right. Just wait one moment for this to load. So, as I said, this is episode 10 of our YouTube live series for 2020. And today we're going to talk to you about storytelling with Google Earth. We're going to show you, kind of how Google Earth works, and then we're going to get into showing you how you can create content using Google Earth and briefly VR Tour Creator. But in a little bit more detail, we'll explain that shortly. So yes, we are GEG Nagoya. We have a team of 3 GEG leaders, and we're already planning things for the end of the year, an online pub night. So we hope you can join us. Details are coming soon, and you can find those details at www.gegnagoya.com, or you can find us on Facebook or Twitter at GEG Nagoya. Whether you're watching live now or whether you're watching later on, please check us out. We've got lots of stuff online for you. And hopefully we'll be doing some face-to-face things once this pandemic gets a little bit more under control. So there are so many GEGs around the country. Google Educator Groups, really, what are they? We are groups of volunteers, believe it or not. We're supported by Google, but yes, we are volunteers. We love educational technology, so that is our primary focus. But we see technology as a tool for learning, not as the be-all, end-all for learning. So we're a collaborative group. It's not always us who are presenting. We have other guests and presenters, guest presenters, I should say, join us for a variety of different events. Since the pandemic began here in 2020, we've been doing everything online. But we do have face-to-face events like pub nights. We have study groups, which we've done online and face-to-face, where you can get certified by Google. We've had unconferences such as EdCamp Nagoya, and we're looking in the future to do things like lesson plan jams and try it on Monday events where we have groups of people kind of sharing their ideas and helping each other improve as teachers. So it's not just one way from the Google Educator Group organizers, it is interactive and collaborative. And we're looking for an online pub night, so keep an eye out at gegnagoya.com. You can also check out GEG Asia Pacific Connect. This is a group of GEG leaders and Google Educator groups around the Asia Pacific region. We have an event coming up on December 4th, 5th, and 6th in at least 10 languages where you can see specialized sessions in webinar format, but live on YouTube. So check it out. And of course, we have partnerships. Sometimes we do events with EdCamp Nagoya and ETJ, English Teachers in Japan Aichi chapter. So give them a shout out too. Have a look for them. We often do study groups. So if you're really into Google and you want to get certified, go to the Google Teacher Center. Just Google it, and you'll see the different certifications you can do. And send us an email at gegnagoya@gmail.com. We'd be happy to answer your questions and help you out. So next month, just to let you know, we're going to look at more ways to tell powerful stories using Google Geo tools with Google My Maps. We're not going to get into that tonight because we're going to spend all our time next month talking about it. That will be November 4th, I believe, at 8 p.m. Japan Standard Time. But tonight, we are here, episode 10, to talk about Google Earth and the powerful stories that you can tell with Google Earth. So we're going to show you, these are our focus areas today. This is what you're going to learn. We'll show you how to access and navigate Google Earth and its education resources in particular. And we will show you how to join the Google Earth education community. Should have put the word education in there. Yes, there's a community online with a Google group that shares really cool stuff. So if you're really into Google Geo tools and Google Earth, then go ahead and check it out. And we're going to show you Google Earth projects, and we're going to show you Google VR Tour Creator, virtual reality tour creator, which both employ Google Street View imagery. Very cool and very user-friendly, actually. So your students can use this. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty straightforward. I'd say anybody that can really type can do this. Generally, though, grades 3 onward, Google Earth projects and VR Tour Creator are pretty user-friendly. And we're going to take a bit of a deep dive into Google Earth projects and show you briefly how you can make one. So first thing we want to get into is Google Earth resources. We want to take you to some places that you may not have gone before. So first is going to be the Google Earth landing page. And all you really have to do is type in earth.google.com, or if you want to click this link, and we will share this slide deck with you in the chat. And you should be able to see the world's most detailed globe. Now, we want to walk you through this a little bit. First, these are just some places where you can get some Google Earth. Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing that. I'm going to start sharing my other site here. Excuse me, folks. For some reason, that would not share my screen, so we're going to pop it up here. All right, and we're back into things here. So now you can see that this is kind of like the Google Earth landing page. It's google.com/earth. First, we're going to show you a few different things that you might not know about. If you go up here, let me just check my notes here. We've got different versions of Google Earth. If you were to click on this, you can kind of scroll down and you can see that you've got the web version, you've got the mobile version, and you do actually have something called Google Earth Pro, which is a desktop version. That allows you to build and create some things. You do not need this for the tools we're going to show you tonight, but just be aware that they're there. Google Earth does work very well on a mobile phone, so don't hesitate for don't hesitate to use that. Let's get the English down, right? Don't hesitate to use Google Earth on the mobile. If your students have a phone in the class, then why not harness that? Outreach is another thing that I want to point out to you. If you go up here, more from Earth, tap on that and click on Earth Outreach. And here are some more resources. The one I want to point out at the moment, you can have a look on your own here, but here's some tips for learning Google Earth at home. We're all living in this pandemic, so I highly encourage you to kind of check this out and see what Google Earth says you might be able to access in terms of learning at home. Now, we're going to go through some of these things that are written here a little bit later. But feel free to scroll through and kind of see the different things that that Google has to offer. And remember, Google does have, for Earth, a YouTube channel. So if you check out their Earth Education website, you'll see access to a number of different resources. And we're going to go there a little bit later anyway. And let's kind of go back here. Now in the top again, if you see the Resources tab. If you click on that, and again, they're just going to give you more resources. So you've got access to the Google Earth Education page and the Google Earth Outreach page, and a few more resources at the bottom. For those of you that are deep dive developer type of people, then have a look. And not finally, but over here, back to more from Earth. First, want to show you Earth Engine. Now, some people may not realize Earth Engine is, it's part of the Google Earth platform, but it's not quite what you would do to build the content. But what it does have is a lot of data sets. So if you're working with older students and you're using data, it's got a lot of really good science and geophysical data. So if you were to scroll, you can get down to this link that says ready to use data sets. So if you were to click on the data sets, it's going to give you a whole bunch of different places that you can get very specific information. This data comes from places like NASA, the National Geophysics Association, Geophysical Association. I'm not sure, but the point is they get these from all over the world, right? A lot of it has historical data and that kind of thing. So you can click here and look at all the different data sets, or if you want, you can access specific data sets. So for example, here, this climate image is an animation created using data. So if you were to click on climate, then you're going to look at the different data sets that have some kind of climate relation. And you can go and then you can click on each image that you have here, And then it'll take you to data sets that you can use. It'll tell you when it's uploaded. In fact, let's just kind of click that so you can see what I'm talking about. Right. So it tells you who created the data, the University of California, for example. And then if you click on this box, it'll take you, out to more information. And then you can get access to the different kind of data. You've got code and things like that that you can use. I don't want to get too much into that because if you're watching this, you're probably looking for what can I use in my classroom that is not heavy into data, which I'd say is most classrooms. They do have case studies, by the way. I do recommend you have a look. They do have case studies on things like climate change and deforestation and that kind of thing. Again, we're going to go back to more from Earth, and I want to show you Earth Studio. Now, this is one you may use. It's quite cool. I'm just going to quickly give you an overview, but basically Earth Studio allows you to create your own, three-dimensional little video clips kind of thing. It works with Adobe After Effects very well. So basically, you can create a quick little project and then create these little data sets. So this, graphic that you're looking at right now, this little video, that's like a video that you could make yourself. If you were doing some kind of presentation or if your students were doing a project. It is slightly steep in the learning curve, but I do encourage you to kind of check it out and have a look. So that's Google Earth Studio. You do have to log in, and you can give it a try by clicking that blue button at the top. And finally, Earth VR. And again, you click on that, more tools. And now virtual reality is connected to Google Earth because Earth is connected to Google Street View, which is connected to My Maps. And this all has 360-degree imagery. Hope I'm not going too fast for you, but basically, Google, travels around the world and they take 360-degree images and videos and things like that. And then they upload the data that you can use, with, for example, VR goggles or for your own particular, uses with virtual reality and video and that kind of thing. So, for example, if you were to scroll down a little bit and have a look at some of the examples that they have here, let's go to the Roman Colosseum. That's pretty cool. We'll just wait for that to load, and I'm going to go full screen with this. And, here's an example of some kind of observational activity you can do with your students, or, maybe you're teaching history or something, and you can give them just another way to kind of have a look at, ancient Roman history. Let me just get out of that here. And, they have other 360 images that you can kind of use, right? So if you're looking at the Matterhorn Alps here, for example, a nice intro to some topic you might be talking about in school. But it doesn't end there, though. All right, so I do want to kind of scroll down a little bit more. Scroll. Let's see. Where is it that I want to do? Yeah, I want to look at the other. Up here it says more from Google VR. If you were to tap on that, then you get other things like Google Cardboard, Expeditions, Tour Creator. There's a number of different VR tools they can use. We don't have time to go through all of them right now, but I do encourage you to kind of check it out. Now, let me scroll down here a little bit more. Let's see. Now, where is it that I wanted to go? Let me just kind of go back. Was it features? No, not highlights. Give me a moment here, folks. Going to go back to Earth VR. Yes, and if you click here on more from Google VR, let's see, where did it go that I wanted to show you here? I want to take you to the Arts and Culture Center. Like maybe it was under available now. Sorry about that, folks. Where am I going? Features, that's where we want to go. No. Give me a moment here if you're just waiting there. I just had this here just a few minutes ago, wouldn't you know? As soon as you want to show something. Okay, well, you know what? We're going to go to the Google Arts and Culture Center. In fact, I think maybe I put that in our presentation here. Let me we're going to go back a little bit. We'll come back to this in just a moment. Yeah. Boom. Tips learning. We'll close that up. All right, so moving right along, I want to show you the Google Earth education page. Okay, now the Google Earth education page is another place that has lots of resources. So if you were to scroll down, kind of have a look at the different things you can do. This is creating stories in Earth, which we're going to show you shortly. There's a Carmen San Diego, kind of a mystery sleuth kind of tour. What are her capers around the world? If you click on resources, then you can scroll down and you can see different things like Arctic expeditions, or you can look at classroom resources for teaching lessons in lifestyle. Now, this is connected to Google Expeditions as well, so there's some VR tours that you can do. And if you click on more tools over here, you've got, again, Google Earth, My Maps, which will teach you. Tour Builder, we're not going to get into because projects is what we're going to focus on today. You've got Earth Engine, which we talked about, and then you've got GOVR. And again, this is a little bit on Google Expeditions, and this gives you some resources and lesson plans that you can use for different 360-degree tours around the world, right? So definitely scroll through that and find some of the really cool tools that they have. Let's see, and let me just jump to my history here. Yeah. Okay, and we're going to come back to, all right, Google Earth Community. I've got that open, so I'm going to pop over here right now. There is a Google Earth Education Google group, and people are sharing projects and ideas on this. So I encourage you to kind of join the group and share your ideas. If you really like Google Earth, then you're going to get some ideas from these people. In fact, we'll throw that address for you in StreamYard right now, so that way you can access that if you're watching this after the fact. All right, we're going to close the VR right now. And the Google Earth Help Center. Google Earth Help Center definitely has a lot of resources for you. We'll throw that in the chat as well. But if you click on this, it gives you like by topic links to where you can find out how to do certain things. And if you want, you can always send feedback to their help center, and they're pretty good at getting back to people, believe it or not. So let me post in the help center link there for you. A little harder to do this without two screens at the moment. All right, and finally, the Google Geo for Good Summit. Google has a Geo Summit held every year, and it's focused on how we can use tools for geospatial learning, basically to make the world a better place. You have scientists, professors, people in the education world, people that work at Google, obviously, talking about how can we leverage Google Geo tools to better the environment, to better our communities and things like that. So I'm going to throw this in here as well into the chat. Geo for Good Summit 2020. Should have just thrown the whole slide deck in there, but that's okay. So you might be able to still attend. Attendance is free. It is a virtual summit this year. Usually it's face-to-face. But anyway, have a look and think about participating. Okay, let me just get a drink of water here. So moving right along, we've just kind of done a Google Earth overview, but we want to talk a bit about storytelling pedagogy, because this session is really about, telling stories, right? So let me just put that down there. So first off, when we're telling stories with computer-based tools, what we're talking about is digital storytelling, right? But don't get hung up on the, even the term stories. Take, for example, World Heritage Sites. They all have an individual story, but if you were to create a tour using Earth where you're bouncing around the world, right? Don't get hung up on that idea of it's got to be chronology. It's got to be a narrative. A story can be something like food around the world, right? What do they eat in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia? What do they eat in Bogota, Colombia? As a staple food, what do people really like? What's a staple food in Japan, for example? That really is a story. It's just not told chronologically or in a narrative. So keep in mind, you can use these tools to tell stories like that. We often call these stories like documentaries, narratives, memoirs, whatever. But anything like an essay or a memoir or a documentary can be turned into a story using Google Earth. And again, we're going to show you how to do that in a little bit. And ultimately, telling a digital story revolves around using multimedia, right? Using audio and video and images, 2D, 3D, 360, well, not 3D, but 360 imagery. All of that together is, creates this multimedia rich story. And it's taken all those skills of photography, of video, of voice narration, and putting them together to create like an engaging experience for the person that views or watches. So I'm going to link these a little bit later, but if you go to socialstudiessamurai.com, you'll find links to YouTube, which has tutorials on how to use a couple of the tools I'm going to show you very shortly. And if you go to socialstudiessamurai.com with proper spelling, Google Earth projects with a C, you can see some examples of some projects that you might want to use with your students or try. We're going to use one of these actually today. Now, why do you get your students doing digital storytelling? Why would they do this? Well, I'm not going to read through this list. You can kind of pause and read through yourself as you watch the video later, perhaps. But essentially, kids learn. They get a voice, right? Start with the top one there. They get a voice, but with these tools, with Google Earth projects in particular, you can collaborate. So students can work together. They can take their own photos and use them. They can look at other photos and choose what's good. They can learn to sight work. Very important skills. But when students are building something on their own, they're creating, they're using their imagination, right? This helps them build confidence and things like that. And more importantly, they share with the world, right? They have an authentic audience, if that's what you want. You can share with your own school community only, parents only, the class only, or the whole world, because it is online and digital, right? And again, just the skills, learning skills in research, in storytelling, in writing and prose. If they're creating their own imagery content or video content, they're learning photography and video and audio. And in all of that process, they're learning to solve problems. They're learning to ask questions. They're learning to find answers. So it's really pretty cool. And ultimately in that, they're developing their sense of imagination and being creative and ideally creating a sense or becoming more empathetic by learning about different places in the world. So some best practices I do want to go through before I teach you how to create some of these, content with some of these tools. So first off, when students are doing their work and they're doing research, encourage them to be, academically honest, right? And get them to think about equity as well. I like to go with broad topics. If I was to use a topic, civil war, then basically we're going to look at a few small parts of the world that are troubled by civil war, and it's going to give the wrong impression that these are bad places and that kind of thing. I choose bigger topics like conflict so that students can see different kinds of conflict around the world, and so that they can see that conflict happens everywhere. We want to avoid stereotypes, like when Zika and Ebola, was an issue, back, probably about about 10 years or more ago. It gave the impression that Africa's got these problems, but really these are problems that we see everywhere in the world. So think about equity. Think of the audience. Who are you making this for? If you use a lot of text when you're making something like this, then it's probably for an older audience. If you use just a little bit of text, then you're building something for a younger audience. And again, if you're getting your students to make things, then you might want to think that, okay, I'll expect them to write this much and or do this much work, like more if they're older, less if they're younger. Really focus on who the audience is and the purpose of what you're doing. Are you educating? Are you entertaining? That kind of thing. I encourage you to complete your research first. If your students especially are making things, if they do the research first, it makes it easier to build these things, and you don't have to keep opening up and going back, opening the app, adding one or two things, closing it, going back 2 days later, opening up the app. It makes things go a little bit faster, right? So I recommend do your research first. As you do that, make sure you include your citations and credits. That's academic honesty. If you're making something for your class, you should do it too. So you are modeling for your students academic honesty and integrity, credibility, reliability, that kind of thing. I also recommend that once you have your text ready, your research is done, you've written everything, have images ready, have your videos ready, like YouTube videos, you might want to link, that kind of thing. It just makes things go a lot faster. And be consistent. If you're building something, make sure every place that you go in an Earth project tour is consistent, right? So what makes a great story? I thought I'd throw this in there. First is the audience, right? The audience decides what's a great story, or if a story is any good or not, so connect with them. Another thing is the topic. Think about what people want to learn about, right? Is it something that's really engaging, or is it something that's kind of yawn, it's been done? So how can you engage the audience, right? Through the topic. Think about your imagery, right? You want good photos, you want good video, and that kind of thing. Think about angles and lighting and that kind of stuff. When you're writing, think about the words. What are those power words? What's the figurative language that's going to make something really interesting, right? So write in a way that captures the imagination. Take the person there as they read. Think about what's a really great fiction novel that you've read. What was it that made your writing or that writing so good? All right. Now you might think about equipment too. Your devices, Chromebooks are really good with these because they work in the cloud. But any other devices like your Macs, and that kind of thing are good too. Just remember, with an iPad, some of these tools you cannot use, even if they're browser-based, they will not work in an iPad. Microphones, I say just use a pair of earbuds that have a microphone attached to it. That's good enough. Also, audio recording software. There's a lot of free stuff out there. Go to the Chrome Web Store, get an audio recording extension, or use Vocaroo or online voice recorder. But of course, there's GarageBand and Audacity, QuickTime. Use whatever audio recorder you prefer. Video recording, you might want to think about using, if you're screencasting, to add video to your projects, then maybe Screencastify or Loom. They're very good Chrome extensions. QuickTime works as well too. Just with Loom and Screencastify, you can upload directly to YouTube when you're finished. But if you use QuickTime and then throw it into iMovie, you can do a little bit more editing, or Adobe or whatever editor you use, WeVideo, etc. If you're into 360 cameras, you want to take your own 360 photos. The Ricoh Theta is one that I use. I really like it a lot. It's about $400 or $500 depending on where you live. It works with a smartphone. You don't need Wi-Fi, just your smartphone, and very user-friendly. And you can attach a microphone to it and take some really high-resolution 360-degree photos and videos. So anyway, if you're really into it, think about using the Ricoh Theta. So we're going to jump out of this, and I'm going to show you a couple of things. So first, we're going to go to Google Earth. Now, this is a Google Earth project. This is one that I wrote, and I'll just throw this link in the comments right now. If you go to my website, socialstudiessamurai.com, you can see several different stories that you can check out on Google Earth and see how it kind of works. So what we have here is called a full screen slide, okay? And this is a project that's already been made. I'm going to show you how to make a project very shortly, but basically the user, right? They can go in and basically click on wherever they want to go. If it was a chronological narrative like this story, you would probably use these arrows here and go from one place to another, right? See the arrows down there in the bottom right? And so if you tap on the arrows, it's going to pull you out, and it's going to take you to another place around the world. Okay, and so now we get this bird's eye view of Rome, Italy. Notice up here in the top right, I've got images that I've chosen and I've linked, and I also have a YouTube video, right? So if I click on that, we can listen. We can, watch a video. I don't think that's going to play for you, or you're not going to hear the audio because I'm plugged in right now. But anyway, you can embed images and videos from YouTube in any image that you want. You can upload your own if you want. The videos have to be from YouTube. Now you see on the right side here, we have an info card or a knowledge card. You can actually add linked text. There's a fair bit you can do with this. We're going to give you the general stuff today. Now, another way that you can go from one place to another, let's say this is a topic like World Heritage Sites, right? Well, basically, you could just skip ahead. You could say, student A, you're going to go here. Student B, you're going to go there. C, you're going to go there. D, you're going to go there, and that kind of thing. So basically, you can use the table of contents to travel around. So I've tapped, and we're going to now from Italy to England. Let's see what happens. So that's kind of cool that you can, kind of zoom around the world to look at different places. And then here you can see I've got my story plus my embedded links. Notice I've got my citations here. Now watch what happens when we go to this place right here. Now, what you're going to see is a feature in Google Earth projects that you can create yourself. So if I tap on that, now watch what happens instead of the bird's eye view. So this has taken us actually down into a church. So Google Street View actually has photographed this church, and you can scroll around and you can look inside. So this is kind of cool. So students can do some reading, but they can also get a full 360 view of the place they're looking at. And you notice here, if you've got the little arrows, you can kind of walk around a little bit, right? Scroll around a bit, and you're not stuck in just the one place. Now, in this case, there's not really a lot you can do, but if this was outside on the street, you could actually kind of advance and have a look at the street. So the question is, how do you create this? Well, let me show you. And again, if you want to go to this website, you can see some other examples of stories. And there is a tutorial on how to create your own Google Earth projects, but I'm going to walk you through the basics right now. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to go back. Now, there's different ways to access Google Earth. I'm in my private account or our GEG Nagoya account right now. So first I'm going to close that. And I'm going to show you that first you can do earth.google.com in your Omnibox. You do have to spell it correctly, of course. And once it takes you to that very first page I showed you about half an hour ago, if you click on Launch Earth, you're good to go. Now, if you're in your Gmail account, what you can do is go up to your apps launcher, tap on that, and then scroll down and find your Google Earth icon. Okay. Now, there's some other features of Google Earth that you're going to see appear. We'll kind of show you those a little bit later. It does take time for this to load. So now we've got Google Earth loaded. There are a few different things here on the side that you can use. We'll show you those in a little bit. But what I want you to focus on is this one right here called Projects. So you're going to click on that. Okay, now what I've done is I've got my own Google Earth Projects text already created. So let me just go in here. First thing I'm going to kind of show you is let's see how you can get your project started. So now the one thing you do need to know is that when you create a Google Earth project, what happens is it will, number one, save your project in Google Drive. It automatically creates a folder called Google Earth, and it'll put your project in there. You can move it to a different folder if you want, but just to let you know, it automatically creates one for you. Now you can see here are the projects that I've been viewing. So my own Nathan Gildart and Social Studies Samurai, my website. But for you, when you create a new project, it's going to show up here. So you just have to click that blue button there called New Project. And what you'll probably do, you can import a file. If you've created a project, you can export it into a file called a KML file. You probably won't do that a lot because you can't really change what's in that file. But what you can do is create a new project, and that's what we're going to do today. So you're going to click that blue button and then choose Create New Project in Google Drive. Now, this title of your project and this description, actually, nobody sees that but you. So I'm just going to type something that I will remember easily, Discoveries. Now, why would they have this? Well, that's because you can collaborate with other people. So if you look at the Share Project button and you tap on that, hit Continue, and then you can choose other people to collaborate on this project with you, right? So, got it. You can just add people that you want to collaborate with there, make sure they have editing rights, and then click Done, and then send the message to them, and they'll be able to collaborate. Great for student groups. Um, so the idea is if you put a detailed description here, then this helps people that you're collaborating with. Um, and then they kind of get a sense of what you want them to do, perhaps. You can do that in a Google Doc as well. So what I want to do now, so I've got my project started here. What I always do, like I said, is have my research ready. So now what I'm going to do is create my title slide. So I'm going to copy my title and I'm going to click on New Feature. Now you could automatically create a place that people go to. You could you can search for a place, you can add a place marker, you can create polygons, but I recommend you start with a full screen slide, which tells people kind of what this tour, what this project is all about. So what I do here is always I take my descriptive text and I put that down in the description right here. And now if I want, I could make a background color, but I want to use an image. So I find just the background color is a little bit boring. And now I've got an image from National Geographic that I want to use, but I don't want that ugly link there. So I'm just going to take all that stuff out and my image credit right here where you see the add link button. I'm going to put an image in my slide, and that's where I'm going to put the credit. So now I've got my text ready to go. Now, if I want, I could put a color in. Let's use green and see what happens. If I tap that and then go up to View Presentation, I can see what it's going to look like. And so that doesn't look too bad, but I do feel that the green background, the solid color, it's a little bit boring. So I want to put my own image in there. And so the way to do that is right here, the background. So I can hit the little camera and I have my options. I can upload photos I have in Google Drive or photos that I have in my Google Photos. Or you can use an URL, you can upload, you can pretty much any other way in any other app that you would upload an image you can do. I've got my link to that image that I want. Remember the image I have linked right here, so I just have to tap it and copy the image. I've already pasted it right here, so I'm going to click select. That's the one that I want, and I'm going to have a look and see how that looks in a moment. Okay, so it's in there, it's loaded. If I don't like it, I can trash it or I can edit it. I'm going to click View Presentation. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Now, the text in Google Earth projects is always going to be white. Well, for now, it's going to be white. It could change in the future. You don't have options. So I think the darker image looks really good with this. And now I have a link to National Geographic where they can see where the image actually came from. So I'm going to go back, and now I want to add another place. And so when I'm ready to add another place, more content, I click my back arrow there, just in the top left. And so what I want to do is choose a new feature. So I'm going to click New Feature, and I'm going to search for a place. Okay, so I'm going to click Search for a place. And here's where you would type in where you want to search. Now, I've been searching recently, so I'm going to just tap on a place in the West Bank, Israel. And this is the Qumran National Park. That's where I want to go. Now, I've got my info card here, but I don't want to just add it like this. If I add this to my project, it's going to be the text that Wikipedia gives. So I'm going to click Add to Project, and I'm going to change my title. I'm going to go back to my Earth project, and I'm going to find, there it is, the Dead Sea Scrolls is what I want to do. Let me just go back and find it. I've got my place, so now I've got my title. This is the title I want for that particular part of my project. So I'm going to tap that right there. You can see it's a nice long title, actually. I'm not going to save it because if I do, I'm going to get this information. I'm going to click Edit Place. Okay, and so now I've got my place, but now I'm going to click Replace, and that means I'm going to replace the information. So I'm going to go back to all of my research. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to grab it. Going to get my works cited there. I think I'm only going to add one image to this. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So I'm going to paste it in there. And if I scroll down, I'm just going to get my line spacing a little bit better, just so I can, and I'll have a look and see how how this is in a moment. Yeah, it's almost there. So you can see really it's I can't really make my text box all that much bigger. I believe I can drag this out a bit. No. Okay, so my works cited, I'm going to bold that just to make it stand out a little bit. You can italicize and bold if you have to. And just as I go through here, if I wanted, I could take these links and link them to specific text, but they'll be active, so I'm going to leave those links in there. One thing that I do want to do is give my image sources, my image credit. So I'm going to put just one image in right now for now. Let's see, I'm going to choose the Dead Sea Scrolls, copper pot. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to put the text in first. I'm going to copy that. Notice I have my Creative Commons attribution. So I'm going to type images and I'm going to paste in that text that I had that bolded for some reason. I'm going to take that out and call that image attributions. And I'm going to highlight that, bold it a little bit. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to click on my link and I'm going to copy that. See how I'm copying the link with that copy icon? And I think what I do with these is I just like to highlight the text and I have to get rid of the old link, put the new link in, click OK. So now I've got the name of the image on Wikimedia Commons is linked. But what I'm also going to do is go up here and I'm going to put that image in. And since I have my URL, I don't have to search. If I wanted to do a Google image search, I could put, like Dead Sea Scrolls, and then I could choose whatever image I want here. I like to, like you don't get as many options if you do this. And I always like to be sure I know exactly where it came from, which you don't always get. Let's see, that copper jar, yeah, that's all right. I think we'll go with that. You'll see what happens. Okay, so now I've got the copper jar here. I can't unfortunately crop, so let's view the presentation and see how it looks. Okay, so it's going to pop up. I've got a nice little blur here on the sides, not too bad. But I don't like this white knowledge card. So I'm going to go to my arrow in the top left because I want to edit. And I'm going to scroll down here and you'll see here where it says small info box. I'm going to change that to large info box. And then I'm going to preview my presentation again. And so now it looks nice and dark. That looks a lot better. Yeah, I like that a lot better. So I'm going to stick with that. Now let me go back because I'm not done. What I want to do is put a YouTube video in here that tells a little bit more about the Dead Sea Scrolls. So I'm going to go back to my project and I've got my video sources here. So I'm going to tap that. And again, I'm going to copy my link. You could just copy directly from YouTube if you want. And then I'm going to tap here. And if I want, I can search on YouTube, Dead Sea Scrolls. And if I know exactly what the video is, then I can choose it. This one's a podcast, so there's nothing visual there. Let's see. Now I'm gonna search by URL. Hit YouTube. Going to click search, and there's the one that I want. And I want this because it's only 6 minutes long. It's really short. So I tap on that. I'm going to view the presentation. Note how this auto saves as well. Everything auto saves, which is pretty cool. So now I've got these arrows on the side. And if I tap, there I've got my video, right? So now I've made my first place. I've got a picture. I've got, picture. I've got a video. I've got my text in here. And I've got my citations. So really, I just have to repeat this. But I want to show you something that I prefer when creating a place on Earth. To me, this isn't so engaging. It's not that attractive. Let me zoom out a little bit. Now, one thing that you can do to make your tours just a little bit more engaging, notice how I'm kind of clicking and dragging to move around. Down here where you see Pegman, right? If you click and drag over the image, now click and drag, you see these little blue roads and blue dots. That means there's a Google Earth image in there. So I'm going to find one that I like and watch what happens here. I think this is, you can test this out. You can go back and forth. I'm going to drop that in there and watch what happens. Now it's taking us down to the Street View view. And, ooh, I like that. Watch as it renders. It's got that archaeological site. So we're looking at the inside of these buildings. I kind of like that. Now, if I don't like that, all I have to do is go up here to the arrow and it'll take me back to the bird's eye view. and I can try to click and drag again. But I like this. And so what I'm going to do is down here in the blue where it says capture this view, I'm going to tap on that. And that means when somebody goes to this for the first time, that it's going to take them straight down into this view, and then they can drag it around. They can scroll around, sorry. And if there is a street view little white arrow, that means they can kind of travel around. This one they can't. But again, when they go in here now to this place, it's going to automatically take them to this view, which is much more engaging than looking at that bird's eye view map, right? So let's go back. Now, I'm going to show you another thing here, and I think we'll go with a different place to do this. Let's see. Let me just go to the top here. See our topics here. We're going to go to Pompeii, Machu Picchu. Let's go to Machu Picchu. All right, so I've got my research done on Machu Picchu. So I'm going to look for Machu Picchu. I'm going to tap here. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to choose a new feature. Let me just search to add a place. Now, remember, if you know exactly where you want to go, you can do that. I'm choosing Machu Picchu. I'm going to click, that popped up. Make sure you have the right place. And of course, as I build the project, it's kind of taking me into where I have to go, where I want to go. Kind of plops it in there. Yeah, and that kind of, there it is. That looks good. So I'm going to click Add to Project. And so I'm going to go back to my research notes. I'm going to copy my whole title, and I'm going to paste it in there because this is the title I want. I choose Edit Place. And I'm just going to go through a very similar process, right? So I'm going to go through, I'm going to get my works cited, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm going to choose Replace as I did before. Now I'll go back and edit all this stuff later. I'm going to make my large info box because I like the dark stuff. But what I want to show you is that after I make this place, there's something else you can kind of do with it. Let's put one image in there just since we have a little bit of time here. I'm going to go back. I'm going to choose my image source, right? So I just put images in there for the sake of time. Okay. If I was to do this formally, then I would definitely be putting the proper citations in there. So I'm going to copy that JPEG, and I'm going to put my image in. Let's go back here. Notice it keeps you where you were before, right? I'm going to click Select. Just going to have a look and see how it goes. Yep, everything looks kind of good. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go to my arrow. And what I'm going to do now, all right, I'm going to kind of highlight this area right here. I want to use this as something to point out when they're at Machu Picchu. They're on the top of this mountain, right? Scroll around here, like people living on a mountain. What's with that? So I'm going to go to New Feature, and I'm going to choose Draw Line or Shape. And so watch what I do. I'm going to tap here. I'm going to tap here. Tap, 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 tap. And I'm just going to say, what's this? Or what do you think this is? How's that? And I'm going to click Edit Place. And so now it's made a new place for me, right? I would put an appropriate image in, that kind of thing if I wanted. And I'm going to type speculate on what this land use was and how it was possible. Okay, I'm going to create a large info box. And I'm going to view my presentation, see how it looks. And so you notice here, they've got this, now they have a polygon. And it says, what do you think this is? Speculate on what this land use was and how it was possible. Well, they're on the top of a mountain. It's going to be hard to get food up there. Well, it looks like it might be a rice paddy or something like that. Or maybe they grew potatoes or yams or something. Well, how could they do that? Well, it's in the mountains and they get a lot of rain. So maybe they collected water in this area right here. I can't really see. So let's go down and see a little bit more. Like, what is that? Oh, maybe they collected water. It looks like, maybe there were cisterns in here or something. But anyway, that's another way you can use it to get student thinking and student, learning kind of going. And then, of course, they could look around the area and start speculating about other things about the area. right? What do you think this is? Well, it looks like it's a path to go up to Machu Picchu, for example. So that's a pretty cool feature. So let's go right back to the beginning. I'll take a drink here. Okay, so let's go from one place to the next. Okay, so it's going to take us away from Machu Picchu, and it's going to take us to our very first place, which was Israel, and right down into that street view. Pretty cool. Let's go to our next place, which this was Machu Picchu, where we had our text and our images and, that kind of thing. And you notice that's right there. So I tap on, and then we get that question kind of pop up. So you can see how this can be used for kind of a storytelling or a class storytelling activity or a class activity, which is kind of neat, I think, right? So there's more you can do with Google Earth projects. Let me actually just kind of go back. The last thing I want to show you is, again, how you share it with the world. If you go to Share Project, the little share icon, the human with the plus button, and you click down to Get Link. This is where you can make it anyone with the link can view, and then you just have to copy the link. I'm not going to do that right now, but you would click Done, share the link, and then anybody can view it. They're not going to see this stuff. They're going to see that view that I originally showed you, where they can only just do the tour. They can't do any of the building. So essentially, that is Google Earth projects. There's a little bit more you can do with it. So check out that tutorial video, in particular towards the end, and that'll tell you how to do it. Now, there are a few things I want to show you about Google Earth. So just these icons that you see at the side here, right? If you look here, there's Earth Voyager. If you tap on Earth Voyager, and we're jumping back into Google Earth here, right? You've got all these different things you can do. You've got games you can play. They've got some quizzes in some of these. You've got these layers I think might be of interest, right? Because it tells you, like, sometimes time lapses. It shows you how ice has melted and things like that. This one, Tsunamis in History, is kind of interesting. If you tap on that, you get the Google Earth globe. And then you have 21 different stories about tsunamis in the history of the Earth, right? So you can either tap on the pins on the globe, or you can use these down arrows to the bottom right. And notice when you use these, sometimes you get a little bit more information, right? There's a little more interactivity, and you can kind of change things, right? You've got little information cards. What is wave energy, right? What is run-up water height? Okay. Let's see. So you don't have that table of contents feature here, but what you can do, again, is scroll and use the Earth as a table of contents. Let's see. Well, they would pop up in a moment. So we're going to go back to Voyager, and I'm going to show you another one where if you choose education. Now you can look at these other topics on your own, but I do want to highlight some of these where they've got different stories in history and culture and sometimes science, English as well, poetry around the world. And these are basically tours that they use Google Earth, like myths and legends around the world, for example. Now, this one in particular, I can see that it's possibly has a little more interactivity. So I'm going to click Explore. And so now if I click on that thing here, now I've got, it's just going to show me the image there. Sorry about that. So I can tap on different places. Patton's pumpkin, or Patan's pumpkin. Click on Take a Closer Look, and you get a little bit more interactivity. Now, if you want to, you can click. And of course, you can kind of scroll around the globe, and you'll notice they have sometimes images and video and that kind of thing. So Voyager, I tell you, I recommend you have a look. Now, another thing is this one called I'm Feeling Lucky, which is kind of cool. If you tap on that, it has a new place in the world every single day. Maybe you could make that a habit in your class where it's like, where are we going to go today? We're feeling lucky. Where is it going to take us? And you could either add that to an ongoing class project, or you can click on the little paper airplane, and then you can fly there, and you can kind of check the place out. And you can click on the Wikipedia link, and it's going to take you to Wikipedia and give you more information. So yeah, there's the Wikipedia on the place you're looking at right now. Now, another thing here is the map style. You can change the view of the map. If you don't like that look, you can kind of change it. I'm not going to do that right now, but I recommend you kind of play around with it and see if you like it. Borders and things like that you can add, or you could take off. You could have everything on it. So you see we've got a few more things added. So there's obviously some kind of border here separating two different states in Italy, perhaps. Another thing too is you can use the measuring tool and you can find distances. So if you wanted to go from here to here to here to here, or maybe choose different cities, then you can get the perimeter and or the distance, right? So 2,000 meters, it's like, 2 kilometers if you were to go from one point to another. Or you can go from one. All right, so I'm going to close that. If you wanted to go from one point, whoops, let me tap on this. Tap on my thing again, my ruler. Tap on one to the other, and then you get the distance from one place to another. And you just have to tap on that endpoint again. So that's just another thing you can do with the activity, right? And of course, you could go out and find longer distances and that kind of thing. How long would it be if how far would it be if this person went from here to here to here to here? It's kind of cool stuff. Now, there's one last thing that I am going to show you. It's not particularly Google Earth, but it is connected to Google Earth or Google Street View 360 imagery. So I'm just going to see, we don't need this anymore. So I'm going to type, let's see, Tsunami, and that should come up right there. So again, using my 360-degree camera, as well as Google's 360-degree imagery, I've created this VR tour. And this is created with Google VR Tour Creator. There is a YouTube video that I've thrown in there that you can teach yourself how to create these. But again, it's 360 imagery where you've got information cards where students can kind of drag around and just tap on the pop-up cards. And some of them have images, some of them have audio narration. And, for example, there we go. I've got some information and images and more about the myth. So there's an audio playing here. So if I go up to my narration tool up here, my gear wheel, whoops, that's on. So I obviously didn't upload a video or audio there, but I'll show you one where you can. So you have these different scenes that you can go through. And with each scene, now you do have a description here about what the tour is all about. But you can kind of scroll around, pop on the knowledge cards and, kind of build your learning. You just have to tap out. Right. Just another way for students to learn and use 360 imagery, for example. And so here's a shrine in the area that I live in. Here's an info card. I'll tap on that. And let's see if the audio narration is on. So let's see. What is Shinto? No, that doesn't tell us. Oh, you're not going to hear the audio simply because I've got my earbuds in. But you will hear the audio, trust me. Right, so it's just another way to use Google Earth, Street View imagery that, is another way to kind of tell stories. This is a whole other session, so I'm going to leave it at that for now. So let me just kind of turn off that narration for the next time I go in. So let's just quickly go back to our slide deck here. So we're going to start wrapping things up because that's almost been an hour. We often go a little bit too early or a little bit over. Okay, so just a reminder, next month, November 4th, we're going to talk about Google My Maps. And in a very similar way, we're going to show you how to tell stories with Google My Maps. Probably won't take the full hour, but we'll show you all these things you can do to create collaborative maps in your classroom, as well as tell stories using maps. And so just a reminder, we are a Google Educator Group Nagoya, based in Nagoya, Japan. Check us out online. We are doing only virtual events at the moment. So wherever you are in the world, if the time zone works for you, feel free to join us. And you can find us at www.gegnagoya.com or find us on Facebook or at GEG Nagoya on Twitter. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you again.